And we are live. We're live. And
Hello.
we're here for another Games Talk Live. And this one's going to be an exciting show because a lot of times I'm hearing from people, Fonz, you just have way too many Xbox guys on your show. Where are the PlayStation guys? Today, folks, I have the co-host of the Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast. And, of course, I can't just skip this part, with the great Colin Moriarty, by the way.
That's right.
Sacred Symbols. Very great podcast, PlayStation podcast. If you're not listening to that, please go listen to that. And also, he's the executive producer at Last Stand Media. Of course, that being Mr. Dustin Furman.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Sorry, I realized I brought the YouTube link open, then it was like blasting music through my speakers.
I heard it.
Dude, it's
jamming out.
That's the problem when you have, your setup looks absolutely beautiful. Mine
Thank
is
you.
like pretty good, but like I can never get the audio sources right. But it comes together somehow at the end of the day. But thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. It's a nice little Sunday chat. It's you got a good vibe going on here. I like it.
It's a chill, relaxed vibe around here on GTL, man. We don't really take things too seriously. But,
Right.
It's gaming. It's a hobby that a lot of people love, including myself. And I'm just happy to have another PlayStation guy in the house. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk a lot of things PlayStation here, guys. But first, I want to talk to you a bit. And I want to find out exactly, how'd you get involved with Sacred Symbols? How'd you get involved with Last Stand Media? Tell us.
So I had been a fan of Colin and for him for years, since before Kind of Funny, even with On Beyond. I had
Same.
that was like the first gaming podcast I ever listened to was Beyond, and that kind of opened up my eyes to this career, this idea of talking about video games. And so I had done a bunch of different side projects and my own podcast, and eventually got connected with Colin through he was doing this show Fireside Chats that my friend Ben was on. Ben is now the associate producer of Last Stand, so he's eventually kind of found his way over as well.
Yeah.
But so I met Colin through that, and then I knew that he was looking for an audio editor, and I sent him an email, and I knew, like, from listening to Colin for so many years, I knew, like, a very straight to the point, like, hey, here's my work, let me know. And he surprisingly got back to me and gave me a chance to edit some shows for him. He liked my work, and so that kind of became like my part-time job in addition to my job as a video producer, or like doing video production stuff, like local stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually Colin offered me the position as a full-time gig, which was awesome. So I got to leave my old job, and then he started including me on Sacred Symbols, and it was a little interesting at first just because the audience, and no disrespect, of course, the audience, a little resistant towards change, as I would be as a listener of a show. But pretty quickly, the audience thankfully warmed up to me, and then Colin invited me to be a host on the show, and then here I am now. So,
and you've got some great takes, man. I've been listening to Sacred Symbols, and I may ask you some questions here today regarding Sacred Symbols and maybe some of your thoughts and stuff that I already personally know, but I want the others to know, the listeners. So, of course, there might be some things that I already know.
Sure.
But as far as it's pretty amazing that you've listened to Colin for so many years, and then you're like, hey, I get to sit alongside with him now and do this show. It's surreal, right? It's pretty nuts for you.
Yeah, and that's I've said this on a couple other shows, and it's not just working alongside Colin, but just the having the audience and being able to do this as a career. I've said that I wake up and I'm like, oh wait, this is a real deal. It's happening. Like I tried from like basically around like 2014 was when I really was like, okay, 2014, 2015 is when I was like, okay, this is a direction I want to go in. And, it had different levels of focus throughout all those years. And then it was March of 2020 was my last, like early in March was my last day at my old job. So it was a lot of years of like really trying to get anything off the ground. And so I really, every day I do not take it for granted. I'm so thankful to be in the position. And,
so you'd say it's kind of like your dream job in a way,
Yeah, for sure.
That's
like
awesome. That's what everybody strives for in life, that's the one thing that, is really mundane for so many millions of people out there is they go to the job that they do not like. And here you are being able to live out your dream, essentially, your dream job. It's amazing. So
here's an exclusive story for you, Fonz, that I haven't told anywhere, but it meant a lot to me.
Excuse me.
Exclusive.
All right, now go ahead and tell it.
You had that ready. I didn't even know. So when my parents live in Virginia, and they came up to visit a month or two ago. We were out to dinner, and I was explaining. I was like, I don't even know, like if your mom, my grandma, knows what I do. We can explain it, but I don't think she knows. And he was like, yeah, well, when I was over there, I was explaining it to her that you get to talk about video games and produce stuff, and that really this is what you always wanted to do. And when he said that, I could see like he started to well up a tiny bit. And that just meant a lot to me that, awesome. My dad, he's been so supportive, both my parents and my wife, especially. Like, man, Holly
your wife
always
has to be
supported the dream all the way, all along the way. And so I wouldn't be here without him.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I've got this from Stuff Sean. He says, hey, Dustin, big Xbox fan, but I've developed quite a fondness for you and the Sacred Symbols crew. Console wars are for children. I like your insight on the industry. And that's what I like to hear, man. People like this is what I like to cultivate on this show. Like, this is the type of listener that I love. So thank you for that stuff, Sean. Appreciate it. Got to have an open mind with all this stuff. I mean,
right.
It's just that way,
It's funny. Console wars are not anything new, of course. I think they kind of ebb and flow with the we're still kind of in the new era of these new consoles and stuff, and it's I don't know, it's a sensitive time, but I think a lot of people understand that, like, Sacred Symbols is a show that's about the industry. We focus on something in order to do that very well, which, there's general gaming podcasts too, and that's cool. Everyone can do their own thing, but it's like, I've always thought it was funny that's like the fanboys, like Xbox fanboys, should love our show because we are the most critical of Sony more than anyone else. Like, some people,
you guys do get pretty critical sometimes. You've got some spicy takes, Colin especially sometimes. And people, if you're just thinking, oh, it's a PlayStation podcast, they probably just rag on Xbox all the time, you would be severely mistaken. They do not do that. They're pretty open. And honestly, you had the Sacred Symbols podcast. Colin had one of the spiciest takes of this generation so far with the whole, at the beginning of the generation when Sony kept having a lot of fumbles. He was basically saying, look, Microsoft has a chance to kick Sony's butt.
Right.
And that was a pretty, big thing that was going around.
Right. Yeah. And I think
clip.
I think they still do. It feels like for the last 2 months, every week there's a new state of play rumor. Like, people are hungry for what Sony's gonna do, and I'm kind of like, what's going on? Like, you don't have any other. Well, is there any exclusive first party games that are exclusive for PS5 only, not for PS4?
Yeah.
Like,
and you know what? Hold that thought. We'll get into more PlayStation talk for sure.
Right.
But first, I want to do something with you that I do with every guest here.
Sure.
So it's something I like to call 5 questions. All right.
Wow.
So this is the whole production thing here. All right. So it's 5 questions, 4 trivia, and 1 question that is very subjective. So that one's a freebie. So if you get something wrong, you'll hear. If you get something right.
Ooh.
Okay. So, do you understand the game? You ready to play?
I'm ready to play.
Let's go. Some ominous music plays. What kind of fruit does Crash Bandicoot collect in the game?
Wampa. Woo.
Chris Redfield is a main character in what popular franchise?
Resident Evil.
You're making this look too easy. I don't know.
I'm getting nervous.
We'll see. In the first Uncharted game, Drake's Fortune, what treasure is he searching for? A, pirate treasure, B, El Dorado, or C, Ark of the Covenant?
B, El Dorado.
My man. What was the first game to require the use of the dual analog sticks on the DualShock controller on the PS1?
I want to say Ape Escape, but I don't think it is.
Ape Escape, 1999.
Wow.
All right. What is your favorite gaming experience of all time? This could be favorite game or favorite experience.
There's too many. I don't have an exact favorite. I'll say right now, Bloodborne was one of my favorite of all time. Diving in and having
that was a great
FromSoft click in my brain finally after years of not getting it. It was a amazing experience.
Awesome. And with that, you win.
Woo!
You win. So anyway, yeah, you won.
Dude.
There's only been, I think, 2 people on this show that have won. So good job, man. Your PlayStation, your PlayStation stuff for sure.
You made me nervous with that, the Uncharted one.
Yeah.
I'm so glad it was multiple choice because I wouldn't have remembered. I was like, man, as soon as El Dorado, though, I was like, that's it.
And I love it when people play along in the chat to that, too. It's something, look, when I started this podcast, I was thinking, what can I do that's a little bit different from everybody else?
Right.
I can break the ice with a trivia game.
Sure.
And so I said, hey, that's a great way to do it.
Dude, I love it.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it.
Actually do like it. So I'm very glad that you love it as well. So, yeah, got a lot of people in the chat, some great people. USO Vinny, got General C in the house. What's up? Lots of great people. Miles Dampier in the house from Windows Central.
Whoa.
What's up, buddy? Yeah, so Indie Gamers in the house as well. So I want to get into a little bit about this because I just wanted to talk PlayStation today. That was my initial thing. It was going to be me and Dustin are going to talk PlayStation, and we still will. But something came up Friday, of course, and this is where a lot of chat might give me a lot of backlash for. But just listen to us chat. I'm not here to tell you your feelings are wrong because they're not. Everybody has their own opinions. These are just our opinions. And I don't even know what Dustin's going to say because I don't know his opinion on this. But when it comes to this whole thing about Halo Infinite, I'm sure you've heard that Halo Infinite will not be launching with co-op and with Forge, which traditionally they have. And a lot of people are up in arms, especially about the co-op. And I ask, what say you on the matter?
So personally, I'm not for my experience, I wasn't going to play this game co-op right off the bat. So that's one thing. The second thing is Forge is cool. Don't get me wrong. I spent so many hours in Forge for Halo 3. What this tells me more than anything is that Halo Infinite is coming in hot. It makes me concerned that we're kind of in the, we're in the home stretch here of when this game's supposed to come out, and they're dropping these bombshells that major features aren't going to be there. And Fonz, I was on a little show, The Iron Lords, recently, and I mentioned I simply mentioned the possibility of them delaying it again. I said,
I remember,
if there's no release date before either at Gamescom, something's up. And then we get this news, and now there's suddenly a big conversation about if they should delay the game so it's feature complete for launch. And I'm kind of like, well, I'm not saying I was right, but I'm saying that there's something up still about this game.
Yeah. I have a similar, look, people that know me and hear me talk about 343 Industries, the dev team, I'm not really high on them. I haven't been.
Sure.
Because ever since they took over, for me, and this is strictly for me, they have not proven to me that they are making Halo their own. They have not given me a great campaign experience yet. For other people, that may be different. Halo 5 to me, I played it twice, and both times I came away very dissatisfied with the story. With the Halo 4, I was dissatisfied with that story too. There was a lot of issues I had with it personally. I know a lot of people like it. I personally didn't. So ever since they've took over the Halo franchise, they still have yet to prove to me that they can make a great story. Now, you're absolutely right. They've had blunder after blunder, and we've heard so much, and a lot of it is rumor, that there is so much turmoil within 343 Industries. We've heard rumors on management issues. We've heard issues, stemming all over the place that, even most recently, there's rumors being all over Reddit from supposed 343 developers complaining that, hey, there is issues with the game here and here, and that this game might be still a little buggy at launch, but it'll still be received well. I don't like that. If this is true, I don't like that. And I'm not saying that's true. That's just rumor. But it does lead you to speculation when you see their track record, when you hear the things that are coming from them, possibly coming from them anyway. It's just, it's making me speculate that it might be coming in hot. You might be right about that. The fact that they have two main staple features of the game not being there day one speaks volumes. And that is something that a lot of people are just glossing over. They're looking at it like, look, I want to play the campaign. I want to play it now. So I don't care. Bring it out now. You can bring that other stuff later. But these are main staple features that are being omitted for a reason. There is problems with them, serious problems. So could some of those problems still be within the campaign? Could there still be issues there? For me to speculate that, or for Dustin to speculate that, it's not like it's out of the realm of possibilities. I don't know.
Well, and some people have brought up, and I think this is a fair thing to bring up, about how maybe COVID has affected the development of this game. And I understand that, and I think that is definitely a factor. But it's important to remember, I've been to 2 E3s where they showed Halo Infinite. 2018 when they announced it, 2019 they showed it again. 2020 was the Craig fiasco where they showed off campaign. And then this E3 came by again. It's like, and now it's going to not launch with 2 major features. This game's been in development for a very, very long time. Yeah. I mean,
well over 5 years. And and they had that year delay, and you're wondering, what exactly did they do for this delay? I mean, look, we saw the graphical improvements, well, at least on the multiplayer side and in that little trailer. It looked great. But what else did they do? What else did they fix? Because if you remember right, they were saying that this game was going to be, ready to launch last year.
Yeah.
And what would they have released last year had it launched?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's insane. Like, what? So if you omit the co-op experience, I understand we have to bring this into the equation as well, Dustin. This is a very different Halo. This is an open world live service Halo. And Joseph Staten himself has said, the creative lead there right now, has said that a live service game is not really ever complete. And I don't like statements like that, because for me, this direction that Halo has turned, I've always been against this direction. This 10-year plan that they were talking about, this live service plan, this will build upon the story, we'll build upon this world as we go along. It's like, I like my Halo games like I like other, Halo games. Just straight to the point. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Let's go to the next one. What is this going to entail with a live service? Are we talking about maybe, and I'm speculating, maybe a shorter campaign, maybe something in the end where it's a very dissatisfying ending? Maybe you get a to be continued. I don't want that.
Right. It's funny too, and I think it's clear hearing you talk, and just for the audience, it's like, I love Halo. I'm currently replaying all of the Halo games to get ready for this new one, and I desperately want this game to be good. I remember, dude, when Halo 2, before it came out, I was like having dreams about this game. I was so excited. And Fonz, I think you bring up a great point about 343, and I don't trust them either, because they haven't done anything to earn my trust. Halo 4, the multiplayer for that, not great. Halo 5, they got the multiplayer better, but the campaign, I just remembered this the other day. It's like 3 missions you play as Chief, which I just can't believe that. And then the absolute, just complete botched launch of Master Chief Collection, which is, it's great now. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. They fixed it, which is good, but I don't know. I have to guard my hopes and dreams for what Halo could be based on the history.
And I want to make something clear. We are not saying that there's no talent at 343. There is genuine talent there, but there might be problems with upper management. There might be issues with leadership, direction, that sort of thing. And that could always lead to even the best talent putting out shoddy work. And I'm not saying that, everything they put out is shoddy. Look, the multiplayer in Halo 5 is incredible. Nobody is going to take away from that. But campaign-wise, to me, that's the bread and butter of Halo. For me. I don't know if it's the same for you, but I like multiplayer, but I do love the campaigns. That's what I love to play through.
And I think it says something that this was supposed to be the flagship title for the launch of the system, and they had to delay it a year, and that's fine. I'd prefer the delay and have a great game, right? But then now your flagship is a year late, and it's missing 2 features that not all fans, but many fans really care about. I feel like it's starting to feel a little sloppy.
Yeah, that's what stings the most, the fact that they had the year-long delay and they still aren't coming out complete. And that's the thing. I've had this stance with any game. It's not just Halo I'm picking on or 343. If any game is not totally complete by launch, delay it. That's my recommendation. Right. USO Vinny says, my issue is people are treating Xbox's flagship title, which Halo is, as if it's an indie from a small studio. This is supposed to be our biggest title as Xbox fans, and that's 100% right.
Yeah.
That's how it feels. Some people are just totally like, you know what? Just launch it. I want to play. Forget about what it may be like or whatever, If this game, here's the thing. If this game comes out and it's in a buggy state at all, even if it's small bugs here and there, it's going to be magnified tenfold because people are going to scrutinize this game because of the delay, because features are omitted. People will scrutinize this. That's just the facts.
Right. Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's difficult. They gotta, I wonder how much of a factor Game Pass is with the relation of how people are thinking about how a game should launch, right?
That's
because
a
lot of people aren't spending $60 for Halo Infinite at launch.
Yep.
It's getting included with their Game Pass subscription mostly. And so you have to wonder if people are willing to be more forgiving in a way since they're not directly paying for it.
And some are. Some have literally argued with me that point, saying, look, it's in Game Pass. Who cares? They can always put whatever in later. And I don't want that to set a precedence for Game Pass. I don't want Game Pass to be the place where, hey, developers, you can put a half-baked game in here. And I'm not calling it half-baked, but there are features missing. But I don't want this to set a precedence for the future for other developers to say, we can put it in a certain state. Look at Outriders. That was a mess. And, it did get more engagement in Game Pass than anywhere else. I'm sure of it. But that's because it was within Game Pass. But that shouldn't be an excuse for an unfinished or buggy game. It shouldn't be.
Yeah, I agree. And Game Pass is really changing the conversation a lot about the commerce of games. And I think that it's difficult. I'm a Game Pass subscriber. I have Game Pass Ultimate. I use it on PC and my Series X, and I've gotten a ton of value out of that. But at the same time, I am hesitant about what it means for the commerce of games and our relationship with them. It could be dicey.
You get comments like this from Yosemite Blam that says this is just fear-mongering, and it's really not. Especially when there's a history behind the development team, a history of misses. It's going to lead to speculation. It's not just like we're grabbing at straws trying to make the game sound bad. As you heard Dustin say, he loves Halo. I love Halo. I want to play this game and want it to be the best it can be. I'm still hoping it's the best it can be. I hope this game is amazing when it comes out. But I have reservations. That's all.
Right. Yeah, and that's, dude, I mean, right now, of course, there's a million things wrong with like both companies. Like there's some people bring up like, what about Gran Turismo? What about God of War? And it's like
those are delayed.
Well, and
for a reason, right?
The thing for me right now is like Sony isn't talking about Horizon, and it's like it's been 2 weeks, I think, since it was basically, I mean,
rumored to be delayed. Yeah,
rumored, a very strong rumor to be delayed, and it's like, Sony, what are you doing? Like, just at this point, come out and say something. Like, put out a PlayStation blog post, because you're kind of teetering around and you've let the rumor become fact, which it very well maybe. It sounds like it's true to me. I believe it. So I don't know. You know, it's there's a lot of complaining that can go around to both sides.
Yeah, we can get into PlayStation as well. I mean, this is only an hour show, by the way. So PlayStation, like you said, with Horizon Forbidden West, it's rumored to be delayed, and I think it's a pretty heavy rumor. I think it probably will be delayed. I've been saying that for a long time, that I don't believe that God of War or Horizon was going to come out this year. Of course, God of War already being delayed, that was confirmed. How do you feel about the state of PlayStation right now? Like, they had some great games that came out initially, but how do you feel about their holiday lineup?
So it's not surprising to see Sony kind of go light on a holiday season, because they are willing to let their partners kind of take the shine, like Call of Duty or whatever, because, they're making 30% off the top of those games, no matter what, just for being the platform holder. So on one sense, I get them being quiet, because it's one of those things where their console is selling out consistently without them doing anything. So I can kind of get that, but at the same time, you want to give people confidence in a long-term plan. And I think that's more and more, I'm hearing stories of people that are saying, I was going to buy a PlayStation 5. I couldn't get one. I started to look at Game Pass. I started to look at the Series X or the Series S even. It was available, and I don't know what Sony's doing. So I bought an Xbox, and maybe at some other point I'll get a PlayStation. And so I think that I understand Sony's strategy of being quiet, but I don't agree with it, because I think that they are against very fierce competition with Microsoft right now. Just look at the lineup of studios. Bethesda acquisition. I know there's some PlayStation fans that want to be like, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. I'm like, it's a huge deal. Think about the IP behind that, right?
And let's even discuss the optics of Game Pass as well. It's hitting the casual market as we speak, even more and more every day. Like, more and more casuals are signing up for this.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing is, you look at Game Pass, and like, I think about myself in like 6th or 7th grade, right? I didn't have like a ton of disposable income or anything. I could have looked at Game Pass, or like, if I maybe got some money, I was like, okay, I could maybe, put something together and get one of these next gen consoles. Like, man, all I need is like $15 a month with this console, and then I'm set. Like, that's more than I can even play right off the bat. Yeah. And so that, I think, it doesn't just apply to like teenagers or whatever, but anyone that's maybe either wants to put a limited budget on their gaming, or just chooses to be like, yeah, I'm not going to, why would I spend $70 on new releases when I could just get this?
Yep.
So.
Yep. So Philly Eagle had a $5 super chat here. He says, look in the mirror, folks. Stop buying incomplete games and you'll see less of them release. And that's true. You would. But, people are going to buy what they're really into, and they're going to keep buying this stuff. Unfortunately, I don't think that's ever going away. But, man, especially with a live service game, because you never really know how complete the game really is at launch.
Right.
You just never really know.
Well, and this is not uncommon really at all, and it's starting to pop up in places you wouldn't even expect, like Nintendo. Like Nintendo is releasing a lot of like Animal Crossing. People are still starving for updates in that game. Mario Golf was like pretty light, and it's happening all over the place. But again, it only stops if we stop spending the money on the incomplete games.
Yosemite Blam says, look, I want a great Halo game. We do too. I'm critical of 343, but tech preview was good. It was an old build. If Infinite launches buggy, then I'll be critical. It isn't like they said co-op isn't happening. Let the game talk. And yeah, you're right. But let me ask you this, Yosemite. What happens if 3 months after the game launches, Joseph Staten comes back and says, sorry, guys, co-op is still not ready, but it'll be ready in another 3 months? What happens then? Like, it's just... You never know about these things. He can't guarantee that window of time is going to be exact. And for those people that want to play co-op, it sucks for them. It really does. But I hear what you're saying. I ain't mad at anybody with a differing opinion. And Dustin, what were you going to say?
Right. I always think it's funny when it's like, let the game talk. And, I'm not trying to diss you or anything, but it's like, our job is to speculate or to use the information that we have. Present that and our opinions on it, and that's kind of the whole point of these shows. So that's like I'm never just going to be like, well, no, we'll just wait till it comes out and then we can judge it. It's like no, we're gonna. There's a real conversation to be had about removing feature or not removing, I shouldn't say it, but delaying major features from a title and what that means.
Yeah. But now jumping back into PlayStation, because people are going to be talking about this Halo thing, and because there's a lot of divide. The Xbox community is divided on this one. There's so many people at each other's throats about this. Yeah. And what I want to say to people is that, look, it's just an opinion. I'm not telling you to feel any different. So I respect yours. Please respect ours. That's it. A lot of people are saying we're overreacting. No, I think it's justified in a lot of ways because of the track record, the history of 343, what they've done so far with the game. It's 5-6 years. A lot of people are saying, one guy told me, it's been long enough. They've worked on this game long enough. Just put it out there. And my thing is, do you remember Cyberpunk? Do you remember Cyberpunk, what happened there? Because people were saying it's been long enough. Just put it out there. We'll fix it later. I don't want one of those things to happen to Halo. And again, speculation, but I'm going to speculate on that. It's just going to happen. I just want to see the best, and so does Dustin. So
for sure.
But yeah, regarding Sony and not having a real strong games lineup this holiday, traditionally it seems like they've steered away from the holiday releases anyway. They've been more about spring releases, summer releases, especially spring. I feel like Horizon might be delayed until like February.
Right. Well, I'm thinking, let's see, Horizon, originally, I remember that it came out, I think in March initially, because it came out right before Breath of the Wild and the Switch. And it's cool now because we live in an era where all the big releases don't need to share the same 2 to 3 month window for holiday where games can kind of come out whenever. Yeah. And so I like the idea of a Horizon in March. Again, I would like for them to just come out and say it, but
now about that, because I was going to bring that up. Some people say that Xbox talks too much, PlayStation doesn't talk enough. Is that kind of your vibe? I personally like that Xbox has been more transparent than Sony this generation. I'm sure you get the same feel too on that.
Yeah. In some ways, I think it's like neither one of them has hit the medium. I think that sometimes Xbox talks too much to the point where it's like I'm not interested almost, or it's like they don't save some stuff. Instead, they just kind of like have been sprinkling it out. which maybe was what the consumers wanted because of how quiet Sony was. They're like, hey, let's take this opportunity to just give hungry people something to chew on for a bit as far as news or whatever. So, I think that their strategy could be valid. Sony, on the other hand, the problem too is that Sony's messaging when they do speak is not always great either.
No.
For months we were wondering, hey, when are we going to be able to expand the storage on our PS5? When are we going to be able to do it? And then they say like, oh yeah, you're going to be able to do it. Here's the requirements. It's in a beta. By the way, if it breaks your console, sorry, not our fault. It's on you. It's like, come on, you couldn't have collected this better and tidied this up a little more after we've been waiting for a while. Like, come on.
Beta testing hardware is never a good idea. Public beta testing hardware.
No.
It's crazy to me. So far, most of the reaction and everything from the community has been decent on it, the PlayStation community, and they've I haven't heard personally of anybody breaking their consoles yet by putting in an SSD, but the possibility and just the fact that the wording and everything they put out there is scary. It's like, I don't want to do this.
They did it before launch too, because when we were wondering about backwards compatibility, they said we're working to achieve backwards full compatibility.
Yeah.
And we're like, what does that mean? Like that doesn't sound confident. Like does that mean that it might work, or if it does, it's not going to work great? Is it going to be limited? And then at the end, they're like, oh, okay, don't worry. It's only like these 6 games that for the most part, no one cares about. I mean, maybe someone cares about one of Joe's Diner or whatever that one game was. But it's like, why did you have to say it that way? It was just, they're very strange. Sony PR, they could do better at a lot of points.
Well, Herman Holst was just interviewed recently, and he was talking about PlayStation titles going to the PC, and he kind of alluded to the fact that day one titles wouldn't be doing that anytime soon. But what's your reaction to them wanting more Sony titles going to PC?
I think it's great. I love the idea of especially some of these what's now considered legacy titles coming over to PC. PC is where games can live forever. And so I like that from a preservation standpoint. And I just see it as if you're a PlayStation fan and you care about these IPs, it can get more people interested and more people involved, and that's good for the health of the things that you love. And
so that's an interesting point, Dustin, because let me ask you this. If they were to do PC games day one, how would you feel?
I think that would probably be a mistake. In the end, as far as a personal aspect, it doesn't really matter to me, like Dustin Furman, how I play it. I'm going to play Deathloop on PC. I think it'd be a mistake from a business decision, because that would just kind of undercut the fact that Sony's selling point above Xbox is they're saying our games are cut above everyone else's, and you're not going to be able to get them in a subscription. You're going to pay $70 for them because they're that good. And obviously, that's a matter of opinion and what you personally value.
It's an opinion. One that I don't personally agree with, but I don't agree with any $70 game myself.
Right.
However, the reason why I asked you that is, though, because you mentioned about, it would help games and stuff like going to PC, the legacy titles help, create revenue for those games and stuff. And I think it would help games like Days Gone if it would have hit day one in PC. It would have created more revenue for the game, possibly created even a sequel for the game. And that's just speculation, but I'm just saying, there are benefits to day one on PC as well for the company. But I could also see what you're saying, that it might devalue the platform just a bit.
Right. Yeah. And I think that, I'm not
a PC guy. I am console through and through, but I don't mind when a PC player gets to play the same game I do. I don't care. I enjoy it.
Sure. I'd be so curious to see what like the market research is of. I know a lot of, in hardcore gaming circles, right? I have to remember that like you and I and the people we interact with all the time are not the average player. We are the most dedicated. And so our views on this are skewed, but I've heard of a lot of people that are like, well, I have a 3080. Why would I buy a Series X when all of their exclusives are coming to my platform? But they are going to buy a PlayStation 5 because they want to be able to play those exclusives. But like I said, on the other hand, we don't live in the people we interact with are not the normal reality of most gamers. So you have to keep that in perspective.
What would you think it would be a good timeline? Maybe after launch to release something into PC?
I feel like what they've been doing recently makes sense in that they are currently working on a lot of the PS4 titles that they can kind of bring those out as there is either like in a case of Days Gone. That's a way that they can try to extract more money from a title that maybe didn't hit their expectations. Horizon was a great one to get the PC audience interested in that IP. And then I would think that God of War would be one of the next ones in the timeline in order to get people on board with that. And they can use those PC releases. Obviously they're making money off of it because they can't make any more money on God of War on PS4 at this point. They've sold as many copies. I'm sure that maybe there's like someone in a Walmart somewhere that's still buying God of War.
The same for something like Days Gone on PlayStation.
Right.
Because the ones who really wanted to play that on PlayStation did.
Right. Yeah. So at this point, why not make more, throw it out there again, make money on it again to a new audience. And then if someone plays it on PC and they're like, man, God of War was so awesome. I might want to get a PS5 in order to play
that. Yeah. Or experience a new PlayStation experience,
right.
Whatever's on the horizon at that time. I totally get all that. That makes sense. What is the years? I think it's less than 2 years for these games between PlayStation and PC.
Right.
I think that it's been less than 2 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Chat knows best. A lot of times they give me the info right away. But which game, chat, came out in a certain amount of time, the least amount of time between PlayStation 5 and PC? Or PlayStation 4 and PC, I should say. Honestly, PlayStation 4 and PC.
One of the more interesting aspects too, and this is something that I'm a little hazy on, is that I don't know if are there any PC games that require you to have an SSD or even an NVMe drive. That would be a little crazy.
I don't think so. I'm not a PC guy, but from what I hear from my PC gaming friends, they don't require at least 99.9% of them, because I've never heard them say that any games do.
Right.
Eventually that'll happen.
Yeah.
Eventually. But right now, no, there's too many PCs out there that have mechanical drives. They're not.
Yeah. So I wonder if that would be a limiting factor, particularly for releasing, let's say, if a PS5 game, first party, designed by Sony, and takes specific use of the SSD, think like Ratchet and Clank, right? If they release that on PC, would it have to have a very specific spec that's like, yeah, you need an NVMe drive if you want this to run like it does on PS5? That's kind of an interesting thought.
It's interesting, yeah. But it would have to happen, you would think. Yeah, that's interesting. But most of the games on PlayStation 5, you don't need an SSD. It just helps immensely with those load times and stuff. I'm loving the benefit of SSD on both the Series X and PlayStation 5. It's amazing.
Oh, man. SSDs are great. I'll never forget the first computer. I got a MacBook with an SSD in college. I was like, look at this. I can open every app in less than 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And now that it's for gaming, man, I Ghost of Tsushima, the update's out, the new DLC, and I was playing that. I'm like, man, the fast travel, the SSD. Boy. I'm like, this is such a quality of life for both. I mean, Xbox and PlayStation and PC now, all of the fast loading times is just, it's a good time to game.
Yeah, Colt Eastwood says Star Citizen is the only game that requires an SSD.
Oh, okay.
I did not know that, but
yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. You're right. Ghost of Tsushima, this DLC, I've been playing it all weekend. For a 3-hour campaign, I've already put in 14 hours. 14 hours. And that's because I'm doing all the exploration, all the side missions before I get to the main campaign. So I've only scratched the surface with the main campaign. I've got 14 hours in.
I played it on Friday on stream for about an hour and a half, and then yesterday I didn't really play any games at all. I'm thinking I'm going to jump back into it tonight. I got to tell you, Fonz, something a little embarrassing. Okay. I hopped back in. I was like, man, I cannot remember how to play this game, and I'm getting destroyed. So I put it on easy. I put it on easy, and I'm like,
no, what you do, here's what I had to do. This will take care of you. Put it back on normal. Okay. Jump on a YouTube video. There's YouTube videos out there that show you the combat, how to combat right. And as soon as you see a little bit of it, you'll remember. It clicks.
Right.
Because I forgot. I totally forgot. I felt like I was like brand new to the game and I was just getting whooped. And then finally, when I watched the video, jump back in, I'm a samurai again. I love it.
Love it. It's and man, I know that it already looked so good with the 60 FPS update on PS5, which I think the PS5 version, it's a little bit, the upgrades aren't like super extreme. Like I think it runs at a higher resolution.
Resolution. But the resolution bump is incredible. I've been saying this. It looks gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
I played it. I was playing it on the Pro right before I jumped into the PS5 version, the director's cut. And I saw the difference and I was like, wow, okay, that's a good difference there. That's nice. But I wish that they would have added more. I don't think it's $10 worth it.
No. And it's so frustrating. And this is something we've been really, on Sacred Symbols, we've been critical of with Sony is it's like, I understand the reason they're doing that $10 thing is because they're like, our PS5 games are $70. And so if you're upgrading it then to PS5, then we have to be consistent. I'm like, this is egregious, especially in the Ghost of Tsushima situation where it's like, what am I'm paying for the ability to lock on the resolution and the lip sync, which really should have been there from the start.
Yeah.
So
and I think the reason why the lip sync thing wasn't there is because they went from full motion video to actual in-game.
Right. And, you know, that was supposed to be like a loading thing. At least that's what they were saying on the Digital Foundry video. And I understand that, but I don't know. When you make it a feature in your $10 upgrade, I'm like, no, like you're not, that's kind of not hitting it for me.
USO Vinny says, it's a publishing cost, not really Sucker Punch's idea, I feel like. Well, that would be Sony then.
Oh, yeah. Sony's I think it's definitely a Sony decision.
Yeah,
for sure.
Sony. It's definitely Sony charging that. And I think it's egregious. Any of these upgrades, you get them for free on Xbox. Why is the competition doing this? I mean, especially when they're already the market leader. Why are you charging for this stuff?
Right. And that's the one that's coming up for Death Stranding, I think is much more acceptable. It's a $10 upgrade, but it includes all of the additional content as well. So to me, I'm like, okay, well, I'm paying for all these additional things that they showed off in the trailer, whether it's like some of the new modes, the new weapon stuff. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with paying for new content. But the way they did this Ghost of Tsushima one is like,
that's the only reason why they got me with Ghost is, number one, it was my favorite game of last year. One of my favorite games of the generation, last generation. So they already had me at that with it, but the DLC is why they got me. The DLC, all the content, even when they were saying, the 3-hour thing, I knew I was going to take well over 10 hours playing this because in the original base game, I put in 100 hours.
Right.
So I knew that it would be a lot for me. However, the way they packaged it, they should have just said $29.99 for DLC. Why they had to mention $10 for an upgrade is where they made that mistake. Because they could have gotten away with it scot-free had they just said, look, DLC $30. Nobody would have batted an eye at it. So it's weird.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point that you brought up like the competition, where this is something that Xbox is really exceeding in, where they're like, here's an upgrade, here's an upgrade, here's an upgrade, and it's just so clear if you're looking at both sides. It's like, why are you blatantly charging something that your competition isn't?
Don't get me started about the transfers either between PlayStation 4 and 5. They're a nightmare. And the fact that you have to put a button within the Ghost of Tsushima director's cut is ridiculous. Like, Xbox just, it knows. You got the game. Here's your save.
Right. And, there's a lot of things that I think Xbox, as far as you're able to update an old app way easier, which is why I think Warzone has had 120 FPS support for this entire time, basically. But on like PS4, like there's something about they can't update PS4 apps to run at 120 or something. I don't know. It's clear Sony is. I mean, this is not anything new.
I think it when you talk about and I'm not really talking about the hardware itself, but I'm talking about the feature sets between the consoles. I much prefer those feature sets on the Xbox. Like quality of life, features. The fact that you can just start up a game at any time you turn it on, you can have 4 games sitting there idle, waiting for you.
Right.
Smart delivery. Awesome. Like, there's just so many good things about it. Even with the SSDs, I was against the proprietary SSD for the Xbox. But once I saw how they're rolling out this thing for PlayStation, I'm like, I'm good with it. It reminds me of the old memory cards we used to have back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's what it reminds me of with Xbox. But go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna. Sorry, I wanted to ask you because I'm curious. This is so fresh.
Yeah.
This Skyrim upgrade.
Yeah.
Coming to both consoles, both PS5 and Series X.
This is where Phil said back in the day. You remember when he said select titles would be going to other platforms? I think this, being a legacy title, I think this is what he was speaking on. I think future Bethesda titles won't.
Right.
Past Bethesda titles, they may. Some might.
It's very interesting just because at the same time, Hellblade not getting upgraded to PS5, despite launching on PlayStation before Xbox.
You know what I think? I think money has a lot to do with this because let's face it, Skyrim sells. Anytime it comes out with a new edition, people buy it. I see people on Twitter saying, I've bought this game 8 times. Guess what? I'm buying it again. And I'm like, why? Why are people doing this? Because I'm cheap. But that's why they're doing it. They want to recoup some of that $7 billion that they invested into this company.
For sure.
I get it. But if it was a new title, I'd be like, what are you doing? Because you want to have these new titles coming from your new acquisition be exclusive to get more people over to your ecosystem, especially Game Pass. So
I don't know. This is one of the most controversial things that we've talked about on Sacred Symbols, but I think there is still a possibility that the next Skyrim or the next Elder Scrolls will come to PlayStation. Maybe it's delayed by a year. Like, to me, if I'm Xbox, I'm like, we can have our cake and eat it too. We can have it as an exclusive, sell consoles with it, and then release it again on PlayStation and make that money again.
Dustin, let me ask you a question. Do you own a Series X?
Yes.
Okay, you'll be able to play the game. Don't worry about it.
Actually,
because I don't think it's going to PlayStation. I really don't.
Oh, I'm gonna play it on PC for sure. Like it won't.
Okay. So
it won't ever get downloaded on my PlayStation.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's going to PlayStation. Their future titles, that big titles like that, are staying Xbox.
I think that I don't know. I think that is. If I had to put percentages on it, I think that you are most likely right. I just think it's an interesting thought. Like, I think it's in the realm of possibility that they could still do that. I'm just putting it out as an idea that people are shutting down. Like, there's no way. I'm like, it is
people
possible
out there that are also taking what you're saying and they're going, see, Dustin says so, it's going to happen, and they just take it and run with it. See, it could still happen. So, I just don't think it will. But I mean, you can entertain that thought, but I really don't see it happening. One last thing before we go, I want to talk about what else he was discussing. Herman Holst, in the interview, he talked about how that he wanted to cultivate, or he encouraged studios to be daring, and this is the kind of mindset that they cultivate there at Sony. They want these daring games. They want these games, because I was talking to somebody about this, my good friend Ramon, the other day about it, and I was like, playing Ghost, and I was like, man, it sucked me in already. And I was like, this is what Sony games do for me. They give me, they tug at my emotions. They give me a feeling that I don't get from an Xbox game. Now, Xbox gamers could feel differently. The closest thing that I've got from an Xbox game to be like a Sony game is like Gears 4 and 5. But even then, it's not the same. Like, there's something about Sony exclusives that really draw you into the story. And I like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what I was saying earlier, in that I think that Sony does have something special going on, at least for me and my taste with their exclusives. And, you know, I like, you mentioned Gears, and Gears is cool, a very deep story with a lot of great characters, but it doesn't have the same like grounded level that a lot of like the Sony IPs do. And it's interesting to hear Herman say that, because it's a bit conflicting, where he's like, you know, we want our studios to be bold and have new ideas. And then we got this report a few months ago about, you know, they're focusing on blockbusters, and they're remaking The Last of Us. And it's like, that's not bold or new. No. That's retreading old ground. And so I wonder where he's coming from when he says something like that. I hope that he means it. I like.
Oh, me too.
You know, this is maybe controversial here, but I want more games that are very conflicting, like The Last of Us Part 2. Love it or hate it. Good artwork. That's what happens. There's people that love it and hate it. I'm not saying that every game needs to be polarizing, but I think it's important
love the gameplay
for that.
And graphics. I hated that story so much.
Right.
For me, there was just no satisfaction in that. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but I wasn't satisfied.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. I love that. How about this? I love that there are people that vehemently defend this game and love it, and there's people that really, really dislike it and want to have that discussion. Obviously, the toxicity around the conversation can get out because it's just stupid at the end of the day. But I think that that's a good thing for this industry, if there's people that want to debate the stories and the experiences that they have.
Yeah. No, it's true, and I want them to keep cultivating this mindset at Sony, because I like how my emotions are played with in these games. Like, right. I do. I really get invested into these types of games. This is why I always ask for Xbox to get at least one game like this. Mm-hmm. Do one game like Sony. You know, put a lot of production into it, cinematic experience that you get to play, of course, because a lot of people will say, it's just a walking simulator. I don't want a sad dad game. You know, that's right. What they call them and stuff. But no, I definitely love their games. They're some of my favorite games. When you talk Sony exclusives, I listen. Like, I love their exclusives. So
yeah, dude, they're doing great. And you have to imagine, we saw that leaked report from Xbox where they did like an internal review of The Last of Us, and I'm trying to remember, they said something like, we currently don't have like anything on par as far as storytelling, and
or graphically, they raised the bar so high.
Which I think for Xbox, this is good. They're paying attention. They're like, we want to be on this level, and that's awesome. I would love to see that.
Yep. Yeah, man, it's really cool. So, really quick question before we go. I just want to ask you, will they make a Last of Us 3? What do you say?
Yes, I think they will. It's too open-ended, and there's so much money to be made. It's to me, it's about money. I think it might be, I don't know, 10 years or so, but I could see them doing it. I think that Naughty Dog will want to do something else in between, but I think it'll happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and with that, we've come to the end of the show, guys. I thank everybody for showing up today. It was awesome. And for those of you listening after on the Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, all that good stuff, thank you very much. Or watch it on demand here on YouTube. I appreciate you. So Dustin, tell these people where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Sure, you can find me on Twitter at DustinCanFly. If you want to check me out on Twitch, that's something I've been doing a lot of. It's twitch.tv/DustinCanFly. And of course, all of my podcasting is through Last Stand Media. The best place to find us, either on YouTube, just search Last Stand Media, or on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia.
See, Dustin ain't so bad, guys. And
there we go.
Game on.